Crypto without privacy isn't really crypto on multiple levels. I mean, even the word crypto is derived from Greek words that mean hidden and secret. Yet, crypto today is more public in terms of I can see anybody who is transacting on chain.
Break the cycle of exploitation, break down the barriers to truth, break into the next generation of privacy, break free. Free to scroll without being monetized, free from censorship, freedom without fear. We deserve more when it comes to privacy. Experience the next generation of blockchain that is private and inclusive by design. Break free with Midnight. Visit midnight.network/break-free. Built for speed, scale, and simplicity, Bridge helps businesses send, store, accept, and launch stablecoins instantly. Serve global customers without navigating the complexities of setting up crypto rails. It's how companies like X, Shopify, and AirTM unlock new markets, reduce FX costs, and move money at internet speed. Looking for a faster, cheaper way to move money worldwide? Owlting, now listed on the NASDAQ under the ticker symbol OWLS, is building the rails for stablecoin payments. Convert fiat to stablecoins and send money as easily as a text message. Learn more at owlting.com. Hey everyone, you're watching Markets Outlook on CoinDesk. I'm Jen Sanasi here with my co-host Sam Ewan, and today we're joined by Helius CEO Mert Mumtaz. Hey Mert, what's going on?
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. And what a day for you to be here, because I think this morning I saw that Zcash is over 400%. You are, of course, the CEO of Helius, which provides developer tools for builders on Solana, but you've been a big supporter of Zcash lately. So I just want to start here. Talk to me a little bit about your support and your, I guess, ambassadorship for Zcash and why we're seeing this incredible surge lately.
The surge, the recent momentum, so to speak, it comes from a few sources, and it's always hard to overfit these things, and it's easy to over-rationalize them. But fundamentally, the way to frame this, in my view, is that crypto without privacy isn't really crypto on multiple levels. I mean, even the word crypto is derived from Greek words that mean hidden and secret. Yet, crypto today is more public in terms of I can see anybody who is transacting on chain basically interacting with, whether it's their card payments, which exchange they use. I can find out a lot of information about them that I couldn't even find out if they were using the traditional financial system. And there's a lot of problems with that, especially as you've seen a lot of new draconian approaches to privacy and individual rights in Europe specifically, where you had the French government and some parts of Europe wanting to scan every single private message, even in apps like Signal, where it would have passed, according to what Pavel from Telegram said, were not for a few other countries like Germany. And so we've gotten a lot of adoption in crypto, and we've made a lot of progress in terms of stablecoins and trading and DeFi. However, we've neglected the one other core pillar here, which is that the individuals have to have some control over what they're disclosing and what they're not disclosing, right? The point of a blockchain is not actually transparency, it's verifiability. And transparency helps with verifiability, but it's not the end all be all. And so you combine that with a lot of people basically making these realizations on Twitter publicly, and then basically finding a flag bearer, sort of the fastest horse, so to speak, Zcash, which is basically pioneered ZK tech in private blockchains. And you marry those together, and then you have what you see today.
You know, Mert, I've been going around the world talking to people about privacy specifically for the last 9 months or so. And it's interesting because there's this diverse group who says we need privacy and we need to do what it takes to get privacy. And then there's this large group of just everyday people in the streets who love the convenience of what an Instagram brings them or a TikTok brings them. And they're not seemingly willing to take the extra steps. So we in crypto to your point, we've been sort of trained, because we're in the crypto space, to want to utilize the ideals of crypto, but also the privacy that it comes with, that Satoshi kind of brought forth. Even with that, and I think you made such a good point there, that every transaction is being written to the chain where people can follow wallets, they can copy trade, they can hack, they can do all these things. And it does feel like we're still in that early stage. What do you think it's going to take behaviorally for people to value their own digital privacy?
Well, I think your point on people liking the convenience is for sure correct. And just like decentralization, this is not the job of users. It is the job of engineers that build the systems, right? For example, when you're going over a bridge, nobody cares about the structural integrity of the bridge until they go over it, and then you better hope that the bridge works, right? Otherwise, you're gonna have a bad time. And so it's the same with privacy and decentralization, all of these relatively abstract crypto concepts, which is to say that they are better building materials, just like steel versus sand, houses, and how construction evolved. This is the same thing, but in the realm of digital structures in some sense. So what it will take, and by the way, one of the reasons why Zcash took off a bit more this time around than previous times around is that there is a new wallet called Zashi, which compared to other wallets in crypto, especially Zcash ones, which are borderline unusable, made it quite easy, right? You had teams like Solana and Near making it such that you can actually move the ZEC around with a simple click or a simple swap exchange. And then with Zashi, you just click shield, and that's it, right? Like you need to make opinionated product decisions and not get caught up in people should just use privacy because it's better for them. Nobody's going to do that, right? You need to understand humans a little bit. You need some feedback to reality there. And so what it's going to take is that we're going to need, and a large part of this, in my view, was due to the unfavorable, let's say, policy and regulatory landscape, where people were literally scared of going to jail for doing privacy-related engineering systems. There's still people in jail for this. And so as you have, the new admin, which, say what you want about them, it is very clear that they're friendly to crypto, at least compared to the old admin, right? You have SEC Commissioner Hester Pierce just wrote a piece last week on how we have to zealously guard people's right to privacy. You have Paul Atkins wanting to put all markets on chain. And so while we're legalizing these things, we should also legalize privacy. And once you do that, then you start to get these product builders who can build without being scared, but also while pushing forward cypherpunk ideals.
This episode is sponsored by Bridge, a Stripe company. Just as the internet made information global, stablecoins are making money global, and Bridge is the infrastructure powering that shift. Built for speed, scale, and simplicity, Bridge helps businesses send, store, accept, and launch stablecoins instantly, serve global customers without navigating the complexities of setting up crypto rails. It's how companies like X, Shopify, and AirTM unlock new markets, reduce FX costs, and move money at internet speed. Explore the future of global financial infrastructure at bridge.xyz. Looking for a faster, cheaper way to move money worldwide? Owlting, now listed on the NASDAQ under the ticker symbol OWLS, is building the rails for stablecoin payments. With OwlPay, you can seamlessly convert fiat currency to stablecoins, send money as easily as a text message, and on or off ramp globally. Learn more about Owlting at owlting.com. On the topic of regulation, I mean, that's in the United States, but we've seen other jurisdictions, force exchanges to delist privacy coins like Zcash and Monero in the past. We've seen them take a different stance than what you're talking about, Mert, on privacy. Talk to me a little bit about outside of the US, when we look at regulators, how does that come into the picture? It really feels like the world really needs to be working together so that developers aren't afraid to work on projects like this, so they can create that product for end users.
Yes, exactly. So, and this is why this time around is a little different in that. So one thing you might have noticed is we brought wrapped Zec onto Solana, where you have execution quality for trading the asset similar to a Binance. And I've done the test on this. The liquidity isn't quite there just yet, just because it's been like a few days, but it's getting pretty close. And that is the entire purpose of crypto, right? It shouldn't matter where you are. With just an internet connection, you should be able to tap into internet capital markets. So with a wallet, with a private key and a public key pair, I am able to go on Solana, no matter who I am in the world, swap into Zec. So I don't care about some centralized exchange. I'm just on Solana. And then once I get it, I can bridge it to Zcash. And that's it. And then now I can shield it. That is really, like, there's obviously limits to this. Like, people shouldn't be breaking the law by any means, obviously. However, just because you want to not disclose your financial life for everyone to surveil forever, that doesn't necessarily mean you're committing a crime, right? And so I'm sure there'll be some collateral damage, and there's going to be some things, ZK proofs, where like you can use technology to kind of help with some of this stuff. But the fundamental premise remains that the whole purpose of crypto and blockchains is such that people can opt into this new system that is internet native, where they don't need permission from private entities, right? Like, they shouldn't need that permission. Now, okay, if the government outlaws and says, hey, your local government says you're literally not allowed to hold privacy coins, that's a different story. And that could probably happen. And I think that starts to get very gnarly. And I probably won't discuss it publicly here. But like, that is also why I'm getting pretty loud about Zcash, which is to say that while this stuff, we're making progress in crypto in general, we need to also make policy progress and work with people like Hester Pierce and other leaders to be like, hey, it probably is kind of not entirely legal for people to lose even more privacy than they did with the traditional system, right? Like, it probably doesn't make too much sense. So maybe we can do something to push policy forward here.
Mert, I'm interested in going back a little bit. I know your background, especially on the technical, but what was it that really interested you in Zcash specifically? Because there are other privacy tokens out there. What was the Zcash moment that you said, this is where I want to focus my energy right now?
So I have a few friends who were working on Zcash Core, and they wanted me to take a look at a performance upgrade called Project Tachyon that was coming to Zcash, because obviously I work a lot with high performance stuff on Solana. And so I took a look, gave them some feedback, etc. I even had Anatoly, who's the founder of Solana, of course, take a look with me. And so that was actually just when I first started looking into it. And then that's when I first started to realize, like, okay, there are legs to this thing that actually it does work, and it's a superior alternative, technically speaking, to many other things I've seen in crypto, because I'm an angel investor. And that was really just when it started. And then as I kept doing more research and just, okay, like, what was the history here? Like, there's some fun lore where it's like, you see in the 2010 forums for Bitcoin, where Satoshi himself says, oh, actually, if this were possible, referring to ZK, a much better and efficient implementation of Bitcoin would be possible, but sadly, I don't know how to do it. So he said this in 2010, before ZK proofs were really a thing. And a few years later, guys like Eli from Starkware and Zuko, and like world-class cryptographers actually built that system. And they don't really get credit for that. But they were the first pioneers of zero-knowledge proofs and snarks and all these different things. So, and then, I think there are some other like investor-esque appeal or traits that appeal to me here, which is like, it's been live for 8 years and it's been proof of work distributed. So there is not, it's quite different than current projects where like the VCs have like 40% of the supply and, such and such has such of the supply. And like, they're just waiting to sell and stuff. This is kind of like everybody's down very bad. And the only people left are people who actually care about pushing privacy forward.
Okay, Mert, I have two questions here. You talk about those forums back in 2010, 2011. I know you've been tweeting about some and sharing some of those screenshots on X. What does this mean for Bitcoin? And my second question for you is, why hasn't the narrative really stuck for Zcash? It feels like Zcash has really had this failure to start. It's seeing some momentum now, but what do you think's behind that?
I don't think it really means anything for Bitcoin, to be honest, other than perhaps maybe the core devs will consider privacy a bit more in future upgrades. Hopefully, that would be a win. But Bitcoin is almost a $3 trillion asset. Zcash is, 4 billion or something. It's just, they're completely different scales. And Bitcoin is network effects, social effects, all these different things. I think it's just a total different league. Now, I did start memeing around, Zcash's encrypted Bitcoin to make it easier to understand for people. But it's not like it's a jest meme. It's not necessarily supposed to be technically accurate. It's referring to the fact that Zcash has the same tokenomics as Bitcoin or closely mimics it. So I don't think it means really anything for Bitcoin other than hopefully it makes it more private in the future. In terms of why hasn't Zcash really worked in the past? Well, there's a few things. There's a few mechanical things. So one is that there's issuance schedules like halvings and relentless sell pressure from miners and stuff like that due to that inflation that actually do make a difference because it is crypto fundamentally, and the price action, which leads to reflexivity, that does make a difference, whether we like it or not. Now, and then there weren't guys like Shanbo building projects Hackion and improving the scalability of the system. And then I think the timing was not really correct. Like when people were going to jail for writing privacy code, when we were just trying to get even stablecoins legalized, then it's too obscure to work on things like private internet native source of value, right? So the timing wasn't necessarily correct. But I think now, while Trump, this admin is still this friendly to crypto, I think this is the timing for it. And you can kind of see this in the entirety of Twitter and crypto, where like we're not just trying to push Zcash, we're trying to push the entire privacy thing across all ecosystems. And so the idea is that hopefully everybody hardens their systems to give users and individuals more choice in how they transact on chain.
I think that's the real prescient take to bring out of this, which is not just about Zcash, but the fact that and you touched on in the beginning that it's really the developers and the builders who need to think about building privacy in at the core layers, so that users don't have to make those choices that we talked about. Mert, my final question to you. We're interviewing today. It happens to be your birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. You've done a lot in the last 10 years. I'm wondering what you're looking at for the next 10.
Obviously, I want to keep growing Helius to become much larger, solve much more impactful problems, and really accelerate internet capital markets. I think there's a lot of problems with that vision still that need to be ironed out, but they are solvable problems. I want to make Solana the world's trading terminal, so to speak. I want it such that anybody can trade any asset they want with just an internet connection. I do want to help Zcash core scale and actually make privacy adopted and usable for anybody who chooses to opt in. And I really just want to help. I think a lot of people helped me with, writing thoughtful blog pieces and books, even videos, etc. I really just want to journal the process, record the process, so to speak, such that other people are also hopefully learning at least something about, products, startups, and crypto. That is, and then obviously I'm always hiring and investing in people trying to push crypto and engineering systems and how they interact with other fields, even AI and whatnot forward. So not a very specific answer, but just I want to just create as much as possible.
I think that was a great answer and some great goals to set on your birthday. Mert, thanks so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure speaking to you about privacy, Zcash, and everything else you're working on. We hope to have you back on the show again soon.
Thank you very much.